Hello, it's Dwayne with RV Adventures, the Millers. What we're doing today is we are doing a little upgrade on the sound system in our new Forest River Sabre 38DBQ. This thing comes with some pretty cheap speakers in here. The systems that they use in here, the little drive units or the Furion radios, they are pretty much like a car radio. They run off of 12 volts power and they use a 4 ohm speaker. Residential home speakers are 8 ohms, totally different amplifier system and everything. But these little 6-inch ceiling speakers that are in here are just little paper cone speakers, very cheap, do not produce very good sound. So we're going to be taking these out and upgrading to some nicer 8 ohm two-way residential type ceiling speakers. Thank you. So here we are, we're taking down these really cheap paper cone 6-inch 4 ohm speakers out of the ceiling. Just like any speaker, there's two spade type connectors on here. One with the black stripe on it is the negative side. So we'll take those off, take this down. It's only held up with 3 screws that are just shot through the little thin Luan ceiling panel. So we're going to be replacing these with a bigger residential type in-ceiling speaker. It's a 6.5-inch speaker. It is 8 ohms for residential use. It is also, as far as the depth to mount the speaker into the ceiling, it does require more depth than these little cheapy car speakers like you probably would have found in your dad's 1973 Dodge Dart. So these ones that come in here do not produce very good sound, do not produce bass very well. We're going to be replacing these with a W-Box Technologies. This is a kind of an OEM brand. It is actually made by Beale Street, if anybody knows their sound product. But it does have adjustable tweeters in it, so you can actually point the direction that the tweeters will point, which is the human ear does pick up the direction of low sound, high sound in the speakers more so than lows. These speakers also have a magnetic grill, so the grill just sticks onto the speaker housing. It comes off very easy, not very difficult at all. So as you can see here, this is a residential, much higher quality 8 ohm 6.5-inch speaker. Compare these two guys right here. This is really some really low-end speakers they're putting in here. Now this speaker requires the hole to be much larger, and if you also notice, the depth of that speaker is a lot greater than this speaker. So what I've done is I measured the amount of backspace that I have up in the ceiling. So I'm going to have to cut a larger hole here to accommodate that bigger speaker. And what I found is that I need to shift, when I make this hole a little bit bigger, I need to shift it more to the center of the rig, because the actual roof is sloping towards the outer edge. So I need to get back some so I can get about 3¼ inches of space up in here for that magnet on the back of this newer, deeper speaker to fit up in that hole. So I'm going to mark this out and get ready to cut it, and we'll show you some more. So here is our new hole template for our new 6.5-inch 8 ohm speaker. Like I mentioned before, this speaker needs to be set a little further towards the center of the rig. So what I did on the first one, which I've already got installed, was I kind of pulled this back this way some. Also there's some wires running through this up here, so you want to make sure that you don't get into those wires. And I've just got some blue painter's tape on this here to hold it to the ceiling. And pull out the old trusty carpenter pencil here, and we'll mark this template. I'm going to go around it a couple times just to make sure that I've got a good solid line around there that I can see when I take my roto zip tool to cut this out. And this stuff is literally just a thin Luan material. It does not take a lot to cut it. I wouldn't use anything crazy like a scribe saw or a sawzall or anything. I think a person might run a danger of poking a hole through your actual roofing membrane if you were to try to use a sawzall for this. It's my helper behind the camera here. So this is just a DeWalt 20 volt max. It does make a little bit of noise, but it's just a spiral roto zip tool like you'd cut drywall or anything with. I said this stuff is super thin, doesn't take a lot to cut it. Just make sure that the speaker wire is out of the way. These wires that are back in here are tucked back, and of course I've kept this kind of shallow so that bit's not going up into there, maybe a quarter of an inch beyond that ceiling material. So here we go. So we've got our hole all trimmed out here, and I did test fit the speaker to make sure it fit in there because I didn't want to look like an idiot on the film that it didn't fit the hole I cut out. But the original speaker has these spade connectors on it. The new residential grade speaker does not use these, so we're going to get rid of those and strip off about somewhere around about 5/8 of an inch of this insulation here on these. Maybe. We'll kind of twist this up here a little bit into a more solid piece of wire. As we see on the residential grade speaker, we have a push tension terminal instead of the spades. This is pretty typical in a higher end residential speaker. So like I said, again, the one with the black stripe on it, that is the ground wire, the negative side. So I will put that in the negative terminal. And then the solid white one is the plus positive side. So I will get that one. Doesn't want to go through the little hole. There we go. Alright, so we can see here we have the two speaker wires terminated. And then I will kind of tuck that wire back a little bit up in there. And then we will push this up into the hole. And then there's just 4 little feet that pop out as we snug down these screws. This is something you don't really want to over tighten these because they are plastic, and plastic is subject to break if put under too much tension. So all we're doing is just holding that little ceiling up, that little speaker up into the ceiling. It's not very heavy. So here's our adjustable tweeters. These pivot and then turn. So since our seating area where we would be watching television is located over there, further away from this, so I'm going to tune this tweeter to that direction because we want the highs to get transmitted over in that direction for better listening for our television programming. And this is our grill. As I said earlier, this has some strong magnets in it, so that grill just snaps onto there. A very clean finish. It finishes out just a little bit of an 1/8 of an inch protrusion from the ceiling surface. And that's upgrading our speakers to residential style. Thanks.
Come on.
Okay, we've got our new residential grade ceiling speakers in, and what I'm doing is I'm pretty much disconnecting and disabling the unit that's in the rig. It's going to stay in here. It'll just be a clock is all it's going to be. We're putting in a Denon audio video receiver here. This is the RCA television that came in the rig. It's the only television that you do get with the rig. It's a 40-inch, it's actually like 39 inches viewable area, but it does have a digital coax output on it. So we can take a digital coax cable and take that into our Denon receiver to one of our inputs, and we can address that so that when we're watching television, we can actually put the sound through the speakers up here in the rig and not use the little cheapy itsy bitsy speakers that come in the televisions. I've taken the speaker cabling that was wired into the old 12-volt unit, and I've got banana plugs on it here, and I've extended that speaker wire up from behind the fireplace cavity, and I've got that tied into zone A. Later I will tie the outdoor speakers into zone B. I want to upgrade those speakers also to a little bit better speaker than what's out there. Same thing, they're marine grade speakers, the cheapest thing that they could possibly get their hands on. We've also added a Blu-ray player up here on top. This is a Sony unit. I have an HDMI cable coming out of the Sony Blu-ray player, and it is tied into one of our 2 HDMI inputs on the Denon receiver, and we have a dish Wally right here mounted to the wall, and we have HDMI cable coming out of this Wally, and it's going into our other HDMI input on our Denon receiver. So now with all this here, our AM/FM radio, we have that cable extended up here also. That's tied into our FM antenna input on the Denon. So we'll be able to listen to FM radio with this unit through the speakers in the rig. Our sound from our Blu-ray will go through here and to our speakers in the rig, and also our Dish Network signal will go through here. Our sound goes through the speakers up there. And if we are watching the off-air antenna on the television, that sound will also go back into here on this digital coax, and we can have the off-air antenna sound come through these same speakers up here. So the television is pretty much a monitor, and all of our sound will come through these much nicer 8-ohm residential grade 6.5-inch in-ceiling speakers. Thank you.